Hello and welcome to the Overwhelm is Optional podcast. I'm Heidi, Marke, coach and biggest cheerleader for successful but secretly overwhelmed women. As well as weekly episodes here on the podcast, you can find out more about what I offer by going to heidimarke.co.uk. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Overwhelm is Optional podcast. And I am so excited that we have Jenny Bracelin here of I Explain Money. Jenny is a business mentor and money coach. She's been talking about money for over 30 years. Why? Because she loves to get people excited about making more money in their business. She's helped over 1,000 business owners with practical techniques using her business mentoring and also improving their income with money coaching. I am so excited to have you here today, Jenny. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so pleased to be here because people often find finances overwhelming and they absolutely don't need to. So I thought it was a nice synergy between you and I.
Yes, absolutely. I'm couldn't agree more. I think as soon as we get talking about money, we tend to get stuck in overwhelm. And what I really like about, just your whole I Explain Money does what it says on the tin. And your whole attitude is one that's so joyful and comes from a place of love and heart-centeredness, but it's just very practical. And I just think those two things together are such a gift. And I just wanted to get you on and share that with my audience because, money tends to be overwhelming and it's not something we're very good at talking about, dealing with, etc. So welcome. I'm going to dive straight in with the first question, if I may, which is always tell me about your adventures in overwhelm.
Oh, we're going back a few years now. So I set up my first business when I was 22 and my dad had done some accountancy training. So he tried to explain bookkeeping to me and he used words like ledgers and kind of accountancy terms. And I just got so overwhelmed. He's like, we need a sales ledger and a day book and a purchase ledger and a this and a that. And he bought me this kind of big red book that was like ginormous that you open up and then you write in and you can't rub it out. And you've got to do it all along lines and it's tiny writing to fit it in with the lines. And I just got so overwhelmed that it used to take me, and I'm mortified to admit really, 2 days to do my end of month bookkeeping. And I thought maybe it was my dad, that it was just because it was my dad. So I went to see an accountant and I sat in the meeting and I heard every word he said. And I thought, oh yeah, that makes sense. And when I got out of the meeting, I couldn't explain a single thing he said. And I still wasn't any more enlightened. And so it took me about 18 months of working with a business mentor to really understand bookkeeping and what it was and, why to do it and, the benefits of doing it and how it works and that kind of stuff. And once I finally understood it, I thought, this is so simple. I can't believe it took me so long to understand it. And I realized that just people think in different ways. And my background, I was a ballet dancer. So I did ballet training. Yeah. And I had an injury. And so I couldn't pursue my career in ballet. And I thought, right, well, what can I do? And I thought, let's do the one thing I wouldn't have as a ballet dancer, which is make money. So I thought, let's make some money. And so to cut a very long story short, I started a business when I was 22, hiring out tablecloths for events like weddings and functions and things like that, and learned how to run a business. And I kind of did, read all the business books and attended all the business courses. But that kind of making money was so critical because I didn't have any. And so if I didn't make money each week, I didn't have enough money for food. And I was, I'd have to buy food and a credit card. So it really focused my mind. And it was also a recession, so it wasn't necessarily that easy. And so I had quite a steep learning curve to begin with. But then once I got the hang of it, I was like, okay, this is really fun. You hire out tablecloths or you do what you do and people give you money for it. And it's fantastic. And then you just write it all down and, you pay yourself. And I just absolutely loved being in control of how much money I earned and being able to increase it through my efforts. And I've basically been self-employed since.
Wow.
I've had 5 businesses, but that was the first one. Yeah.
I love that. I love the way you took something that overwhelmed you, but you dug into it, which must mean that there's something about you that is fascinated by that. And I think For me, working with people who have taken something that was difficult for them and geeked out on it, that's what you want from someone. You want somebody who's really gets into, because to me, that just sounds like meh. I just wouldn't be interested at all. Whereas for me, overwhelm, completely geek out. And I have clients saying to me, apologizing, saying, oh, I'm talking too much. I'm like, for goodness sake, first of all, the joy of paying for a coach is you get to talk and be listened to without worrying about that. But secondly, every word that anybody ever says about overwhelm, I'm absolutely fascinated. And it sounds to me like you really got into that. And you've just made it sound so simple and fun, the whole business thing. And I love the way you said that. You get to make money. You get to decide how much money. And there's something so important, I think, for so many people to hear, that it's not difficult, that it is possible, and that it can give you freedom and choice. And I just love what you just said there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And I did really geek out on it. And it's funny because there's one percentage calculation that I used in my business, and it's still the only one I ever use. So basically, because some people kind of go, oh, maths, not very good at maths.
Yeah.
And, with business, what I love is all you use is adding and subtracting. And then there's one percentage calculation. And I used to literally have it written. I have my calculator here, written on the bottom of my calculator. So when I need it, I just turn my calculator over to look up the calculation. And that's all you need. Because I think sometimes people think, oh, I need to be good at maths, or I need to be good at technology, and you don't, because business maths is just so simple.
Oh, I love how you literally just cut through all the overwhelm of business, don't you? Just so beautifully. And with such a beautiful smile. It's like, it's amazing. So you're basically saying that people can set up a business and make money. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming.
No, because I used to work with the Prince's Trust.
Yeah.
And so I used to work with people who had disabilities, or who'd been in prison, or just had a really difficult time in life. And we used to kind of get an hour with them. And the question they always ask me is, how do I do bookkeeping? How do I do that?
Yeah.
And I explained it so many times that I could just explain it in 15 minutes to all kinds of people, so they understood it and went, oh, I can do that. And I was like, exactly. Like, great. And off they go.
That's so empowering. You have a really unique gift, don't you? Yeah. Especially having run 5 businesses. What were the other businesses?
So Hideout Tablecloths, that one I did for 8 years. That was the main one. Then I got into investing in property, and I set up a record label. Because my background's ballet, I knew lots of music.
Yeah.
And both of them made, the music didn't make much money. The distributor went bankrupt, but we got a #1 hit in Virgin, which was quite fun. So I made money with the property, but it was very boring. And
hang on. You just had a #1. What was this #1? Do tell us.
It was in the classical charts. It was called The Revealing. So it was a classical album that was written modern.
Yeah.
Modern classical music, basically. Yeah.
Woohoo, how exciting, though.
It was. We got to go to all kinds of music festivals and things like that, which was quite fun. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, really interesting. But so the music didn't make money, and the property did make lots of money. It was boring. But what I found myself doing was I got myself a coach, because I thought, I don't know what I want to do now. And so I got myself a coach, and I'm quite good at, doing the homework. Like, if you're paying for a coach, you want to do the homework, because it's such a difference.
Yeah.
And she said to me, I've not done the homework. And I was like, I know. I met this woman on a train, and I met this woman in the park, and I met this guy at the pub, and they were just talking about the business, and I could see they were really stressed about it. And I was like, look, you just do this, this, and this, and that would save you loads of time and make you loads more money. And, they were like, wow, that's amazing. And so she said, well, why don't you be a business, mentor? And I was like, me? When you think me?
Yeah.
I'm like, really? And so she said, yeah, bring up the Prince's Trust and see if they'll take you. And so I looked at the Prince's Trust website, and there was a job going in my area as a business advisor, helping young people start up a business, which is, something I'm passionate about. And I rang up the one person I knew at the Prince's Trust and said, do you think it's worth me applying? Because I was a client of the Prince's Trust. And she just got, hang on a minute, Janet. She went, Dave, I've got the person for your job in Ealing, And I was like, oh yeah. Anyway, I applied, and it was such a funny interview because I'd never been employed, because they said you've got to be employed. So I actually worked for them for a year. And they said to me, give me an example of good customer service. And I was so nervous. I said, I can't think of anything. And then at the end, they came back to the question. And they said, have you thought of an example of good customer service? And I went, yeah, I won the National Customer Service Award with the Princess Trust. And he just laughed. The interviewers just laughed, put down the clipboard and went, well, you've definitely got the job. So don't. And I loved it so much. I set up that you get targets with that kind of work. And I completed the year's targets in 6 weeks. I loved it so much. Yeah. I had a 73% success rate. So yeah, with people with no money, no experience in business. Yeah. So I kind of really found something I was very good at. I could just see people's potential. Like I look at someone and go, but you're really good at this. And you've got people that would love that. And you like working with them. So why don't you do that? And they're like, but don't I need to do this and this? I'm like, no, just go and talk to them. And then that's it. They're in business and off you go.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. I love that so it sounds like that's your real superpower, to be able to see that for people. And I just think that's the same for me with coaching, is that I can see the person that they already are, but don't feel that they are, and how to get the person into that next level really quite quickly. And it's that, isn't it? It's that gift of, we can see things that, and they always say, I find it interesting as well, because obviously I work with women who are, I don't know, really just lovely and exciting and bright and everything. And sometimes they get frustrated with the whole, why did I not see that? And it's because you cannot see the label from inside the jar. And you can self-coach to a certain point, but having the power of somebody coming, and it's really interesting listening to how you describe that skill, and that it's to me, it's more than the fact that you've had businesses. You're not just bringing your knowledge and experience. It is a superpower to be able to see that for somebody and to believe in them, and then to cut through the overwhelm and say, no, just do this. It's such a gift. And I'm so glad that you,
and it's so much fun as well.
Yes. Yeah. So much fun, because you can see it, and to you it's not difficult, but it looks difficult from where they are. And then you get the absolute joy of watching that person grow into that. And it's like a kind of like, I always see it slightly physically. It's almost like people sit up straighter and they expand into themselves, and then they have more energy. And then they're wonder why they were so tired before. It's just a fascinating process. Is that what happens with you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's amazing. Is it such a, I just think it's such a privilege, actually.
It really is, actually, because for me, someone, they've got to trust you, haven't they, to come to you and trust you with their business, or their ideas, or, their kind of dreams. And, especially when you're doing more business advice, sometimes you have to say to someone, look, that dream that you want to do, it's not going to work financially ever. I'm really sorry.
That must be hard.
It's very hard. But then you say to them, but why don't you do that as your volunteer thing? And actually, if you spent a day a week doing that, which you absolutely love, and then there's other part of your business that you spend no time on at all, if you just spend an extra hour on that a week, you could double your income. And they're like, oh, okay, because the client bases don't work together. So you actually just need to separate it slightly. And because I never want people not to do what they love. You've got to do what you love. But sometimes what you love isn't a business. It's a passion, It's your mission in life. It's not necessarily what you could earn a living from, because I still love helping people who are unemployed, but I can't charge them. They can't afford me. And also, if I market to them, it wouldn't make a living. So I market to clients who can afford me, and then catch them, in the street, on the train. People refer me. So I've always got a client every month who doesn't pay, that I support. But interestingly, they're also the ones that don't turn up, don't do the homework,
Yeah.
So that's why I'd always help somebody, but you can't make a living doing that necessarily, which is, I think, sometimes is really, really sad and upsetting for people. But it helps, you've got to move through that to get to be able to create a business if that's what you want, or create, I've helped people create, I don't do it so much now, but kind of charity, kick community interest companies where they do something they love and make it a charity. But when you run a not-for-profit, it's twice as much work because you've got to find the clients and run the business, but you've also got to find the funding.
Yeah.
And they think they go, I only run a charity. And I'm like, no, that's massively harder than trying to run just a business, because you've got to balance the two sides.
Wow. You just have endless knowledge, don't you? You really do. You really know your stuff.
Been doing it a while.
I'm now like looking at my next question. We only did the first question, but I realise actually, as normal, we've gone into the so what do you do now, because that is the natural thing. So you said that you don't so much do the setting up of charities. Where are you now in your business journey? What's your kind of favourite thing to do? Who are your people? How are you working now?
I think I love working with service businesses where it's where the person does something. So I do a lot of like massage therapists, physical trainers, physiotherapists. I've got clinical psychologists, those kind of businesses, because if you can change their attitude to money, to finance, to business, it has such a huge impact on their business and increases clients, prices, all that kind of stuff. So you can learn, I could teach them the technical stuff in 5 minutes, that's no problem. But getting someone to put up their prices, that's more than a technical exercise, it's changing their mindset. So I love, so those sort of businesses. And what I did before lockdown is I spent a lot of time getting people who were doing what they love, they were really good at it, but they didn't have enough clients, or they didn't understand their finances, they weren't making much money, they were spending too much money on training, and so not making a living. And so I spent a lot of time turning those businesses into very profitable businesses, typically from £500 to £1,000 a month is what they were earning. And then after working with me for a few sessions, I do a program called a year support, and they work for a year, but often they just have one session and that keeps them going for a while. And then by the end of it, they're earning sort of £3,000 a month profit. So I did a lot of those, and most of them now have come back to me after lockdown to go, okay, I got through lockdown with a bit of help. How can I earn an automated or passive income so that if we're in lockdown again, or I can't work physically one-to-one, I can still earn a living? And I just got my figures from one of my massage clients this morning, and she earned £5,500 this month.
Woohoo!
And I'm like, how great is that as a massage therapist? Like, it seems, impossible. But actually, you could, she's now started doing good teaching. She's got some online courses, but you have to work it to the person's personality of how they like to market, who they like to work for, what mediums they work in. So we kind of match all that. So I've been doing that. So now their main business is now 3 days a week, and they've got 2 days a week to play with new ideas and try out new stuff.
That is just wonderful, isn't it? To take somebody out of that drudgery where you're only just surviving, and now to have them thriving. Do you want to talk a bit more about that money coaching? Because I think it's easy for us to think, if you just follow the strategy, if you just do the business stuff, everything will but there's a lot more going on there, isn't there?
There is, and that's why I created it. So I created for my friends in my 20s who'd seen my business do really well. And they were like, oh, yeah, Jenny, how did you manage that? And I'd be like, I attended all these workshops and I read all these books and I did all this work. And they were like, no, Jenny, I don't want to do that. Could you just kind of do it in an hour for me? I was like, oh, okay, how do I do that? So I created 5 questions to ask people. So I create as a coach, you create the environment, don't you?
Yeah.
So I create this lovely kind of really open environment. And we have a session where I kind of create this lovely environment. I ask them 5 questions. They kind of reveal their inner money beliefs. So quite often it's money is a bit crap. Money is a bit 4-letter words. And then we have a little chat about it. And then we create a new belief. And they go out to the world with a more positive belief about money. And then they see opportunities and do things slightly differently. And so suddenly they have more money. Typically people double their income.
Wow.
typically. Not everyone, but typically. And it's because with money, we do the same things. So if you grew up in a place where, so I've got a lot of people who grew up with, it's not okay to earn lots of money, you lose your integrity, or you won't be nice, or that sort of thing. And when they can see they learned that when they were 6, sitting on their parents' knees, or it was the family belief, and they're like, but I run a business and I've got to support my kids and I've got to, I need to earn more than that. They realize that belief is old and out of date, and they can just go, yeah, let's create a new one. No problem. Let's go. Sometimes it taps into something they're already working on. So I have a lot of people that already doing self-development, and they go, okay, I know all about that. And I'm like, okay, we don't need to go there. Let's just talk about it from a financial perspective. And then we can still create the new belief. And they know they need to work at it a little bit, but they've got more freedom. And very often we do see opportunities, or people say, I can't believe it. I've set up a spreadsheet for my finances, and I've never been able to do that before because I just hated spreadsheets. And so it's about when we repeat money things, when we find ourselves doing the same things with money over and over, or, you do something in your business and it never works and you don't know why. So it's when you don't know why, often it's a mindset thing. And there's lots of brilliant mindset training out there. So I'm not trying to compete with that. So I just offer one session to just kind of just move people to the next level, so they can let go of that restriction and that block and that,
Sounds like a really powerful way to work, because if typically people are doubling their income, then that's just, wow, good for you. Celebrate that. That's brilliant. So if we relate this to overwhelm about money, in what way do you see the overwhelm of money appearing in kind of those blocks to earning more?
I have to think of an example. And surprisingly, I had an accountant come to me, which made me kind of giggle. He didn't tell me that in advance. He only told me about a third of the way through the session. But he was an accountant, and he said, Jenny, I manage everyone else's money fine. He said, but I'm a bit in debt. And I was like, okay, how much? And he kind of went very quiet and went £100,000.
Oh, no.
Such a lot of money. And often people say if they're a little bit in debt, they're very big in debt. And if they say, oh, I'm massively in debt, they're only a little bit in debt. Anyway, it turns out from the money coaching that his dad wanted him to be an accountant, and he never wanted to do it. And so by always being in debt for a year's income, because he earned 100,000 a year, he was proving to his dad that it doesn't work.
Oh, wow.
And so when he realized that, he's like, okay. And we talked about, a little bit about what he wanted to do, but that's not my area of expertise. Like, unless you want to make money in it, if you want to explore that, go to a coach that does that. And so I said to him, how are you going to pay it off? And he goes, well, I'm going to have to stay being an accountant to pay it off, because he needs to earn that money. He said, but actually, if I just, with my new attitude, I could pay it off in a year. And so out of £100,000 debt in a year, and then took quite a large salary decrease to go and do what he wants to do. But he wasn't able to do that with the debt hanging around his neck. And also, having spoke to me, he realised that he could earn money doing something he loved.
Oh, do you know what you're doing? I think this is what you're doing. I think you're getting people out of their head where they're just blocked and can't even face the money, and you're getting them into their hearts. And we know that as soon as we connect with our heart, we get that energy and that clarity.
Yeah.
And then you're picking up on that, and then you're saying, but you can do that. And as soon as we say, yes, but you can do that, it's amazing how much energy comes, isn't it? It's just incredible when we're really, really tired and it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why I'm so tired. I slept well. I don't understand why and it's the blocks. It's the blocks in the energy. It's because you're not doing something that's nourishing you. You're doing, when your day becomes about getting through the day rather than, oh, what lovely, lovely things am I going to experience today? That's when you just shut down your energy. You shut down your life force, don't you? So what you're doing is just incredible, but so simple.
Yeah. And actually, one of the things that wasn't a business example is another belief that I come across a lot is I can't earn more than my husband.
Oh, that's
so people keep themselves trapped, or my husband does the finances, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
And actually, when you clear, as you say, get them out of their head and into their heart, and you go, right, this is finance, this is bookkeeping, they go, but that's really easy.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they can, one, do their finances, so they feel more confident doing their money and more competent, but also then they understand that that's the block. And so they can go, right, I can earn more than my husband, but quite often they go, I can earn more than my husband, but I won't tell him, or I'll put it in savings, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's baby steps,
You just make it so delightfully smooth, and you just have this way of, I'm feeling incredibly relaxed just talking to you. You've just got this lovely energy about you. So what's your top tip for my listeners?
My top tip is to do your bookkeeping every month. Every month. And I just want to explain briefly a very simple way of doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
So simple bookkeeping is, if you just get a sheet of paper or an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document, you draw a line down the middle and you just write what comes in on the left and then what goes out on the right, and you total the two columns up and work out the difference. That is bookkeeping, because the definition of bookkeeping is writing it down.
Wow. I bet I've never heard anybody make it so beautifully simple. You just cut through all the overwhelm of, and I hope that makes people who are, because I have a mixture of professionals and entrepreneurs listening, and I hope that helps all the entrepreneurs just go, oh yes, I can do that. And I also hope that any professionals who are kind of thinking, oh, I wonder if I could earn a bit more money on the side, and maybe later, if their heart's calling them to find work and money in a different way, that they'll start to see the possibilities that are there, and that it doesn't have to be this big, huge kind of concrete block in your way. So thank you so much. I love that tip. I think that might be my favorite tip ever.
Explain bookkeeping. Wow.
Yeah, it's just, absolutely genius. So where can people find out more about you, the services that you offer, how to work with you? Tell us.
Well, I have a website, iexplainmoney.co.uk. So you're welcome to go there. I've got some free resources like how to get paid, top tips, financial wisdom, that kind of thing. Or just book a free 15-minute chat with me. It's amazing what I can sort out in 15 minutes. And I always love talking to people. That's my favourite way to communicate, is a one-to-one with people. So iexplainmoney.co.uk. And
they can book from the website into a chat, which would sound just an amazingly relaxing experience.
I do get excited though.
Sorry?
It might be relaxing, but I can get quite excited.
I'm not surprised. It's your passion, and it just really shows, and I love your energy, and it's just been such an absolute delight to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your joy, your passion, and your excitement. Thank you so much, Jenny.
It's my pleasure. And actually, you hold a lovely space, and it's been a really easy conversation and just a joy to be here. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If this resonates with you, please use the like, subscribe and share buttons to help other people find their way here too. And please do go to www.heidimark.co.uk/the 1 minute mark with an E to join my mailing list and receive my free 1 minute life-changing audio practice.